Thank you very much. Most of you know that when I get a microphone, I want to stand here for hours. But today I'm going to speak in a foreign tongue and on a subject I'm not a professor in, so I'm going to make it pretty short, I suppose. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not a specialist in this field. I'm more here today representing somebody from industry who is concerned. I'm part of the board of directors with the House of Industry, and the concerns becomes very clear with the hike of the fuel price in the past 2 years, especially within the business which I'm in, but also for many others as well. I'm also concerned because of climate change, and if it's the reason why the climate change happens and the impact it has. As far as we can see, it seems to have an impact also on the aviation in the Faroes. The question is then, do we face this challenge in a proper way? What I'm now going to tell you about that is my very personal and subjective view on this. I'm saying that this is a statement from a local perspective that we have had on these matters. A traditional view, Faroese view on an environmental activist, is somebody who threatens our right to harvest from the sea. And it comes from Greenpeace and other activists who campaigned against whale hunting, and for that reason we put them aside and said that these people are not serious because they don't understand the way we live and the need for us to harvest from the sea. The discussion in relation to the Kyoto has focused on that we are heavy consumers of fuel per capita and cannot commit without great sacrifices. And the ratification of Kyoto is a threat to our fishing industry and consequently also a threat to our welfare. And that is approximately where discussion were on these matters until a few months ago. It was a subjective statement made by me, not by the House of Industry. If we take this a bit forward and look at it instead of a local perspective and look into some of the major new global environmental threats, I think that most of us also face today that decreasing stocks of fish because of climate change and change in the marine environment is a threat also to our welfare and to our existence. I think that the fishing industry daily today faces that punishment from consumer because of unproven effort to manage fishery in a recognized sustainable manner is a threat also to our export. We can see that the soaring oil price hits our economy hard as our dependency on oil is very high. Maybe we could say extraordinary high. And we also face a discussion where the international conventions on the CO2 reduction based on per capita measures is somewhat difficult for us to tackle because we are very few people living in this area. Now, how do we meet these threats? I can see two alternatives. One of them is that we ignore global initiatives and conventions, which was something that we had as an opportunity back in the old days where nobody notified that Faroe Islands was in existence. And some people still think that is a way to go forward. What would the consequence be if we go on doing that? Well, it will happen that the adaptation to new global conventions will be very slow. The migration to new energy sources will be very slow. It will hurt the image of Faroe Islands. We will most likely be penalized by global consumers. And in the end, we will have to adapt to global conventions and politics. But at that stage, we are so late in the process that we are left with few or only one options, and we will be cornered at some stage in a place where we don't like to be. We are not in a position to enter into a dialogue on how to do these things in a way which also takes into consideration special needs of a small island community in an isolated area in the middle of the North Atlantic. And it will have a negative impact on our welfare. There is a second alternative, and that is that we will meet this threat with proactive reaction, including commitment based on common sense. When I say based on common sense, it's because I'm not a scientist. I don't have anything else but common sense to talk from. But it is common sense and obvious to everybody that if we reduce our fuel burn, we also save money.